Ready? Uh, Thank you very much for coming for this interview. Can you please tell us your name and your age?
First of all, let me say thank you for coming and welcome
Thank you.
to our beautiful country, Jamaica,
Yes.
and our very, very fabulous parish, the most beautiful parish in Jamaica, Portland.
Mm.
And you're in the town of Buff Bay, which is very quiet and green and lush and windy. And
Huh.
my name is Desiree Christian Gutsmore. I'm a Justice of the Peace for the parish of Portland.
Okay. And can you give us some examples of the crimes and the violence issues you face here in Jamaica?
For Jamaica in general, we have murders, robberies, assaults, break-ins. Those are some of the greatest crimes that we have to confront with on a daily basis.
Breakings you mentioned.
Break-ins, yes.
What are those?
Break-ins, and we normally use them different from robberies. Break-ins is where you will have someone going in somebody's home, taking stuff out. Maybe they're not there, maybe they're asleep. They'll go through a window, maybe a door. They find a way in, or maybe in a car, and they'll take stuff out. You know, so that's why we call it break-ins.
And do you know people who have committed breakings?
Yes.
Or people who have been victims of breakings?
Sure, on both sides.
And can you provide an example of what were the temptations for the perpetrators and how did the victims feel?
Based on what I've seen just in my parish, because we doesn't have a whole lot of it in our parish, I must say. It does happen across Jamaica, in different percentages in different parishes. Portland, I must say, has the lowest crime rate. We do not have a lot of these kinds of crimes, etc., right across the board. However, I've gotten to realize that when we have break-ins, it's mostly from young persons who are unattached, the unattached youths, very poor, from very poor family, not being helped, not being fostered a lot by many community persons. And most of the times, not all of the time, but most of the times, these break-ins happen because of a need.
A need.
That people are not able to quell. You know, maybe somebody wants to go to a dance, a young person may want to go to a dance, and he's unable, or she's unable basically to find the means to go to these dances or so. And you may hear of every now and again a break-in, especially in our parish, and you get to realize that it may be some cash. Sometimes they also steal gadgets such as laptops and tablets and phones, but they don't keep them. They sell them for very small amount of money, and that is how you realize it's from a need. Equally, you have from time to time, not many, but you have from time to time young persons who get addicted to drugs, and to maintain their drugs habit, then they get into this break-in, you know, where they'll steal to facilitate their drugs habit.
And so those people who are drug dependent, it seems like they're caught up in a vicious cycle.
Yes.
They can't get out of it.
Yes.
Do you think there would be a solution to them instead of them just going to jail or being locked up?
Sure, and you did ask if I know of victims, and I do know of victims. Just not very long ago, I visited my station, which we have some very fantastic police officers. They work very hard, very diligent. They're very community oriented. Great policing staff we have here in Portland and in Buff Bay in particular. And I was there and I saw a young man came, and his report was a break in his home. He just came in from work, they took his laptop, and they went with it. And this is really painful, because sometimes when you hear of the reports and you'll hear somebody telling you, or somebody will come to say to me, boy, you know, they call me Peaches as a pet name, though it's my middle name. And they'll say, boy, my speeches, you know, somebody did break in my house and they took this and that or so, and it's very painful. On the other hand, when it comes to if we could find a solution for a rehabilitation, we have had several young persons who have gone to rehabilitation that does not include going through the court system, even though we have also had some young persons who have been taken through the courts. Or we have some very good judges here as well. They will send them through certain processes, send them to get rehabilitated and get reintegrated back into society in a meaningful way. You know, so there is rehabilitation. We can have much more of it though, to bring us to where we really want to go. And I have seen persons who have been fully rehabilitated and have been integrated back into society and have been very meaningful. And they are also able to tell of their stories and to also speak to other young persons as to the reason why they should not get into drugs in the first place.
Okay. And so I'm curious about Reverend Michael Aiken. How do you suppose that he's helping youth listen to him instead of listening to people who may tempt them to become drug addicts or be tempted to join gangs? Like, how would Michael Aiken replace the role model like qualities that drug lords have, for example?
All right. First, let me do a little backdrop on Michael Aiken. He's like my brother. My brother, in the sense that the things I look out for, the things that I do, the things that I champion, the cause that I champion, the burning fire and the urge that I have inside is similar to what he has. We have been working on a number of projects for many years. Young people getting rehabilitated, young people being engaged in sports activities, shut-ins, etc. Now he has been a very positive and very potent role model in our Buff Bay community for several years. I have seen young persons who would have otherwise gone into crime. I have seen them being so attached to him. He uses his truck that he has, he'll pick them up, he will take a number of them, even 20 of them at a time, to go do football, to speak positively, to speak well to each other, to say, excuse me, thank you, please, to be very kind, to be very gracious. When we have our building projects, we would go years ago to build homes for persons. He would take them with him to assist us. At the school that he operates, he teaches these values and attitudes as how to be patient and to be kind, how to be humble, how to be assertive as well by speaking up when you need to speak up, how to be very helpful. So I know if he was not around and if he was not doing all that he has been doing for the many years, we would have a much higher crime level in Buff Bay. And I'm being very honest that the work that he has put in for the past possible 15-20 years, it has borne fruit in many ways. We know that it doesn't matter the best of a teacher you may are, the best of anyone you may are, trainer, etc. We will have some of our children, some of our own biological children falling by the wayside because of other reasons external to what we even know. So I am very positive and I'm comforted with the work that he has been doing over time, both at his church, at his school, in the community. He's very much respected here. He's called Coach, in fact. A lot of people don't call him Reverend Aiken or Michael Aiken. He's called Coach because he coaches not just football, but way of life. He coaches how to live with principle and honor and integrity and dignity, and that's what he does. And if we are ever in doubt, he will consult with me, I will consult with him, and we have persons, elders, who we will also consult with.
So I would like to compare Michael's position to the position of a leader who leads people to do bad, and Michael leads people to do good. How can you find a community that has a high crime rate to be replaced by a role model like Michael? How do you encourage that?
it's first of all, I can say we can't compare the two. It would be like comparing apples with stones,
Right.
right? Now, Michael is incomparable. He can't be compared. What he's doing cannot be compared to any other. His method, his style, his way of doing things can't be compared to any other. Really has a special knack for coaching, for coaching life skills, for coaching for speaking love and light and grace into people that I have seen in no other. His way could some of because each community has its different dynamics and its different makeup, but I am sure that if he was placed in any other community that is struggling, he would make a remarkable difference in no time, because one, he doesn't travel with fear, because I've come to realize that one of our major problems in Jamaica and in our communities in general is that we suffer with fear. Fear cripples us. He doesn't have that. The one fear I've seen him have is the fear of God. He fears no one and he fears nothing. He will go in any inner city community, he will go in any district, and he is not afraid to stand and talk and speak and call and name things as they are. And he equally is not afraid to call the peace if he has to. He is not afraid to pull political leaders together and speak to them. He is not afraid of anyone per se. So he's not crippled by fear. So if he's taken from this community, say for 2 months, for 3 months, he would be able to speak light and life and transform just about any community. Is like he was born for that.
What I'm concerned about is like problems in the Middle East, such as ISIS, who are taking communities that are filled with violence, and they themselves are transforming those communities into even worse places. And it seems like Jamaica has been getting worse these past years because the crime rate just stays the same or gets higher. So I wonder how people can turn away from violence. What is it that makes them say, no, I'm gonna not do that even though my friend is doing it?
You see, as it is said, in Jamaica, or there's a saying that says it takes a village to grow a child. Now, again, because of fear, I have come to realize that we have been stuck in, or we have gravitated to, a lot of things that are not very wholesome and right and good for us, and this is out of fear. Now, if we are able to replicate some of what Michael is doing, and a lot of our parents are able to stand up and stand out for what is right, then it will be hard for any group, it doesn't matter which group it is, to infiltrate and to brainwash our children. Our children once in Jamaica, when I was a child, we were not easily brainwashed because we had the entire community. It was not just my mom or my grandma or my grand aunt or so that raised us. It was our entire community of Buffby and White River that raised us, that saw us go well, that made sure that we walked and towed what we call here the chalk line and did right. So we have to have, parents have to take charge again of their homes. It can't be just Michael, it can't be just me, it can't be just a chosen few set of persons. It has to be all of us that has a vested interest in this. The other thing as well is that I believe, because a number of us are struggling financially, it has caused us to gravitate as well outside of fear to the not so meaningful things. Because sometimes we look at how do we get our next meal, especially for the younger child in the home. How do we get our next bill paid? And if we are offered by any of these persons, because remember, none of these groups, they function by themselves or alone. They can't recruit anyone just like that. It has to have a monetary value to it. So the monetary value now takes precedence over our moral values, which is so sad. Now, because of hunger, because of needs and wants, or whatever we want to term it as, people has gone away from some of the things that we should be doing for moral standings. So I think if we are able as leaders, not just the government, but as leaders in our different areas, for example, I am not just a justice of the peace, I am the Community Development Committee President, I am my Development Area Committee President, and several other groups I'm a part of that I chair, that I'm secretary for. We look out for the needs of the young persons, we look out for the shut-ins, and we try to meet those needs. We try to tie in stakeholders who can come on board, who can assist us. All of us will have to take on that approach so that our people are not so hungry, so that our people are not so naked, so that our people are not so vulnerable, so that our children can come up and understand that, okay, we can make it. We do not have to gravitate to the evil or the ill wills of the world, but we can make it.
Just on a personal thought, how would you define evil? How would you distinguish evil from the better of mankind? Like, how come people are attracted to evil?
People are attracted to evil because of varied reasons. We have to be mindful that one, not all of us want to be evil. However, because of our mental disposition, some of us may very well have mental imbalances that caused us to see darkness. That's one. Some persons, and some of those persons, they're in the minority. Some persons, as I said before, because of wanting to be popular, because of fear, they tend to want to get in what we call on term in Jamaica the hype. So we know deep down that what we are doing is not right. However, because of fear that somebody may say, boy, you're a coward or you're a softie or so, we gravitate to doing what is less than good. And in my mind, if something is less than good and wholesome and well and of good report and of grace, it is evil. Right? It is evil. Some of the evil that is being perpetuated now and being lent out to persons, they are not evil that we would really want to give out. They are evil as is. They're just evil. And some of us really want a different option. But again, we first have to let go fear.
It seems like in order to get to Michael's position, he would have to struggle a little to get people to listen to him. He would have to be a little bit possessive as a leader so that people listen to him and not bad people, for example. And what is curious for me is how come there's a paradox in Michael between him being like a leader and possessive, but still very genuine at the same time, so that people would listen to him more.
All right. Again, what I've also come to realize is that just this morning I was talking to my foster son and I was speaking to him about why we have police and why we have soldiers. We have been conditioned over time to operate from a point of strong sternness. We respond to that faster than I would respond to humility and grace and gentleness. So if it is at first you have to drive a fear in people in a positive way to get them away from evil and to bring them to good, you first have to drive that fear to get to them, keep them, stave them, frighten them away from that evil path. Then you start to anchor them and foster them and nurture them with grace and with goodness. But our people from a longer time have been driven by fear in both ways. Fear in not wanting to do what is right and fear to get to do what is right. So it goes both ways. Yes. Because it's as if I said to my foster son this morning, when our police, they were on stick out or sick out a few months ago, some soldiers were here and a few police officers still were here, and all the guys that will be on the ends on a daily basis, they were nowhere to be seen. As soon as it gets dark, they would go home. If they're out on the road and they see the police coming, they start to run up and down in essence, even though sometimes there's nothing to really run for or to move for. But because they know that they're from time to time, they are not doing what is the very best or what is wholesome, then they tend to move away. So you have to be able to have You see, a true leader has to have compassion,
Yeah.
but also has to have a level of sternness in them, because not everyone can be led in the same manner. We have different
Right.
leadership styles. You have to be autocratic at times, and the next time you have to be transformational. And I see myself, just as Michael, as a transformational leader, in the sense that there are times you have to be very serious and very stern. Yet at the end of the day, you bring compassion to it, to balance it off, to say, look, I am being this stern with you because I want the best for you. And there's where you spin it and you get compassion, and people love that. I can tell you, when you find children that you're able to bring both worlds to when it is needed, then you tend to get the very best from those children. You get the very best from the adults as well.
But the thing about being stern is that some people who would get influenced by the sternity to become better people, it hurts them. You know, it hurts them at first, especially little
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
They start crying and they
Yes.
show you that they're being
Yes.
hurt,
Yes.
even though in the long run it's good for them.
Yes.
You know, so instead of crying, going through all this emotional trauma, they go and they join a gang instead. You know.
Sometimes they have to go through this crying. It's almost like a cleansing of the soul. Sometimes when we cry, we tend to be able to introspect ourselves and look as to why do we cry.
Yeah.
No, the truth be told is that we will not be able to garner 100% cooperation from all young people, all adults. However, the closer we get to the 100% is the better off we be. Now, one of the key things is that if we just don't give up, for example, if you have a young person who maybe you became stern with because it was needed at the time, and they move away from you and they go to gravitate into a gang, you can't give up on them, because sometimes all they really want sometimes it's a testing ground. I've come to realize that after relating to so many young boys for in teaching them and counseling them and speaking light and life to them, and Michael Aking as well has found that out. Sometimes when you see them move away to the gang, it is a matter of testing. Where is the love? Where can I really find love? And do they really love me? So they expect you to come after them. And it is in the coming after them that they realize, but him really love me for true. Him care for me for true. In Jamaica, we say him check for me for true. Him really wants to see me better, or she wants to see me better. So there and then is where you capture not just their body, but their mind and soul in a good way, because you go after them. The minute you give up is when the rebellion comes in now, because they say, well, you really never cared for me in the first place. So, because if you did care for me, then you'd have come after me. And you know, it would come in like the scripture in the Bible that speaks about the prodigal son. You know, so I believe when they go away or they go astray, it is our duty to go after them, to still love them, to show them unconditional love, if it's possible to be unconditional with them, to still give them a hug. And in fact, that is a time when we need to give more love into them, for them to understand that, look here, I am not giving up on you, just like with your own biological children or child.
So the people who commit crimes, I would think that there's good in them, but that people have given up on them.
Yes.
And to the point where they don't even think that the people have given up on them.
Yes.
They're so lost into that world that they think that what they're doing is right.
That's right.
And so how come those people are bound to show more aggressivity and more power and make humanity seem like it's going downhill?
Because too many of us sit back and do nothing. Good people perish, and the nation will perish when people just lay back, sit back out of fear and do nothing, out of the wrong fear. Because we have different types of fears. Now,
But the problem is that many people don't want to do anything. They want to stay away from that stuff.
And that is what we have to get away from. We have to get away from being lazy, being lethargic, being lackadaisical, being don't care, because we must be mindful that anything that affects one person in a community affects all of us. You really want to know? Let a crime be committed, for example, let a major robbery go on. Everybody becomes panicky and becomes careful and start to close up and start to get off the street. So all of us life are intertwined. We are no man to ourselves or no woman to ourselves. None of us here can function by and of ourselves. We need each other. So we have to get away from being don't care. In Jamaica we call it don't care. We have to get away from laziness, lethargy, negative fear, because we have positive fear, as I said. We have to get away from selfishness as well, because you see, sometimes we tend to believe that as long as my child is okay and as long as my family is okay, it is okay. No, it is not okay. We are a family in a community, or a family as a country, or a family as a parish, and what affects one affects everyone.
But what about intelligent people who have the alpha male in them, but are very passive and instead remain alone because they know that they're smarter than most people and they don't want to be affected by that, but at the same time it seems like they're running away from all the problems?
Can I be honest? Intelligence comes in many ways. We have a lot of persons who are very educated and they may be certified in different areas, but they lack intelligence, because real intelligence will tell you that you can't sit by and do nothing and expect to really live and live happy. Because if you build a 50-foot wall around you and you grill it and you lock in your house and you say you're that intelligent to be staying away from and avoiding things, believe me, it is going to knock at your doorstep in another way, because there's somebody out there that is less educated than you, much more sociable than you based on where he mixes and understands life, and he will come and he will rip your place apart. The very place, he will find a way to drill a hole through the wall if he has to get to you. So real intelligence says, look, you may not be able to solve all the problems, you may not be able to reach all the children, you may not be able to reach all the shut-ins, you may not be able to reach maybe even 10, but what about 2 people? What about fostering and nurturing and care for even one young child? So real intelligence tells you you should not sit by passively and do nothing. I'll be honest, yes, we do have the introverts and we have the extroverts. I am an introvert.
Okay.
Right? But I am smart enough to understand that, not because I prefer to be locked in my house and to stay away from people. I'm smart enough to know, no, if I need help, if I am sick and I need assistance, or if I need to lift anything, or if I have a heavy bag out on the road, I need the help of somebody. So it means I can't be shut in and locked into myself and think, oh, it is okay and all is well. I'm not an entity to myself. Right? So we have to get away from passivity. We have to get away from labeling, because we have been labeling too many things. We have been labeling all of life, and if we get away from all of the labeling, we realize, oh, we're in this big global world and everything we do affects each other. So we have to just get up and go.
Yes, very good answer. But the thing is that some people give up really, really easily, and they have nowhere to run, and so instead they end up doing something bad.
The first thing is we can't run from ourselves. I think the first thing we have to practice, and I've been teaching my own children that, because I have my biological daughter, I have 8 foster sons and 5 foster daughters, and in fact the entire community, as I see both they belong to me and I belong to them. We can't run from self. A lot of the things we're struggling with now is in the mind. We fear so much that we fear the very thoughts that we think.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So we have to first get to that point of mental clarity. We have to get to the point of understanding, why do we think the way we think, and do we need to think the way we think? Because you see, if you run from here and say go to the United States of America and you have a particular kind of a mindset, you are not going to make it just the same. It is only a matter of time. Because remember, what is happening in Jamaica is not unique to anywhere else. It is happening across the world.
Yes.
It is happening everywhere. So what are you running from? You can't run from yourself. Because when you move away, and if you should leave and go 10,000 miles away, you still have you to contend with, you still have your mind to wrestle with, you still have thoughts to wrestle with. What we first have to do is bring a balance. We have to understand that, yes, thoughts will flow through our mind every day. But what we do with these thoughts is what makes a difference. It can't be that because you have a phone and you're idly sitting by, you think, okay, my mind is being wasted, so I use the phone to do something wrong and create mischief for people. What about if you use the phone and instead of doing mischief and doing wrong, you use the same phone to call and find out what is happening elsewhere, or find out what is happening with a sick person you heard about, or a young person who you heard of did not have any lunch money for a particular day at school, and make suggestions. You may not have it, but you may make suggestions as to where they could go and find it. So the truth be told is, running is not the answer, because at a point as well, what happened when rejection take you, or disappointment, I have to come back home. So what do? You're coming back to the same place when you of yourself could have made a difference. We have to teach our young people as well that I can make a difference. It starts with me. You see, we have a culture here as well where we have a lot of parents, they talk about they wanting their children to go to some good high schools. What is a good high school? Your child is what makes the school good or bad.
Yes.
Right? So if you encourage your children, you encourage your child to say, look, it is not about the school, it is about you. What if your child go there with a particular skill and is able to harness that skill there among some young people and to bring a wave of change in a positive way?
But it seems that that children who have that capability come across as rare children, even though I think that everyone should have developed that kind of yeah, but then they wouldn't stand out as much if everyone had
That's
that capability.
We were born for different purposes and reasons, and I must tell you, all of us as individuals have something special and unique about us. It is the reason why some of us are much taller than some are darker than some are slimmer than some may be good at dancing, drumming, cooking, etc. And if only we would look to in self, and stop looking outward, because we tend to believe that because a child is able to do drumming, for example, or blow the trumpet or something very well, or dance very well, then our cooking skills means nothing. Remember, we can't survive without food. So we have to start looking at what is the skills we have. Some of us are very good at encouraging people, such as myself. That is a talent of itself. Not many people can encourage people. So we have to start teaching our young people not to look outwards, not to grow with jealousy and envy and malice and pride, but to remember you're a special human being. We are born with special gifts and goals and talents, and not just believe that, okay, the great runners, they are just great runners and I am nothing. We all are special people, and we have to get away from that mindset where we start to think that all that is bad and negative is me, or all that is good is them, or anything like that. That doesn't make much sense.
And what is striking to me is that even two best friends who have two complete different roles can be jealous at each other and end up killing each other over nonsense. But they believe in that nonsense.
Yes, we can narrow it down. Let us not say best friends. Two brothers and sisters who they just believe that one is better than the other, and they started being jealous of each other, envious, carrying news, making mischief, doing things to hurt each other, not realizing that, but if my brother is doing that, it is me as well. He may be doing it well in the individuality, but when it comes to the collective effort, that's my brother. All that he is in me. So what he does makes me look well as well. So why do I have to be jealous of him? And that is a thing as well we as parents have to cut out. And I must tell you, a lot of jealousy stems from our parents, because a lot of us parents have come up and taught us. For example, in our olden days, we would grow and we eat a lot of dumplings. Out here we use flour and we make dumplings and stuff. And you look and you see parents will give one child one dumpling and another child two dumplings. And a parent will say, okay, you get this blouse today, and then the boy don't get a shirt, or you send this one to go out and do all all the hard work while the other one sit down and do nothing. So these things have been fostered and nurtured over time. Indirectly, we do it and we don't know that we're doing the wrong thing. So over time, we come up and believe who is better than who. The truth be told is none of us. None of us are better than each other. We may be a little bit more privileged because of where we may have gone, the persons we have known, the things we have done, but we are not better than each other, because some people, for example, will scoff at the garbage collector, but if we did not have the garbage collector, none of us that lives in our big houses and walking around saying we're doctor so and lawyer so, none of us would survive if we didn't have the garbage collectors. So how do we scoff at the garbage collectors? They are paramount and very potent and important to our life and living, because they clean the streets, they do what we would not do, so they are very much important and a part of this big sphere, just like anybody else.
What about people who eventually cannot make sense out of each other, even though they could be bright people? How come when they feel like they can't make sense out of something, they refuse to forgive the other person? Because I want to know what makes it so hard for people to forgive each other and instead join a gang and think that would solve their problems.
Again, if we were not taught these things, how do we learn them? It comes back to parenting, and I must say parenting has nothing to do with just our biological parents alone. It has to do with those that are older, those that have seen life before, those that are on their own, those that are responsible. Parenting has nothing to do with who is mother biologically or father biologically. It has to do with a disposition with a set of adults that understands themselves to teach these things. Because, for example, I have 2 children in my household, and if for any reason I hear each of them at each other's throat, right away I call them and I will rough both of them if I have to. I'll reprimand both of them and I will say, look, you must say to each other now, I am sorry, and you have to mean it. And and they know, they will tell you that if for any reason I see like they still look like a little puffy or a little upset or so, I'm going to call them again, I'm going to reprimand them, and then I put them to kneel down and pray. And they must apologize to each other. Now, if we over time have lost that or have been losing that, the children coming don't know the difference. It's just like if you put down milk in a bottle and you put down poison that is white in a bottle, and you don't teach a child that, look, this is poison, this is milk. Remember, children were born with foolishness in them, right? They're going to drink the poison. They would not drink it if they know it would kill them or harm them or anything like that. So it boils down back to us taking responsibility, taking the right kind of actions to teach our children right from wrong, forgiveness, love, grace, not being jealous, not being bitter. It has to be taught. We were taught that. We didn't learn it on our own. Left to us alone, I don't know what would happen to us. So we really have to really thank God for our foreparents that has gone on, or foreparents in different communities who really just stood by and invested time in us, did not sought after material things, but they sought after moral values and principles. We have now been so busy caught up with competing with each other for size of house and for different cars and for model cars and brand phones and all those foolishness. Not that they're not good, but we have been using them the wrong way, and those are some of the challenges we are faced with now.
It seems like innocence can be very dangerous in a certain sense. So like all those people who are vulnerable to like doing something bad, like for example in the Middle East, how come all of a sudden when ISIS took over and came to power, everyone was surprised that happened, even though in the deep sense inside of me, I wasn't really that surprised that people were that vulnerable to join ISIS?
Because you see, I am of the view that it doesn't matter which group it is, it doesn't matter which organization it is. If persons are not meaningfully engaged, they will be easily caught. They'll be easily brainwashed. People have to be constantly meaningfully engaged. I shared my children this morning. We normally have a sit and reason time and we talk about a number of things. And I was saying to them, in fact, from yesterday, why is it you think that you will have a gunman that is out on the road and you hear about a drive-by shooting? Sometimes it's not because he really wanted to shoot anybody, But when you have a gun in your hand and you're idle and you're not responsible, you becomes haunted. It's like a spirit. And I said to them, look at the phone. A lot of times There's no message on the phone. Nobody WhatsApped. Nobody on Facebook any message. You didn't get a signal on your phone. But because it is a technological phone, it's not one of them regular phones. You take up the phone and you go on it and you becomes idle. So old time people have a little saying to say, "Devil find work, give idle hands." If persons are really meaningfully engaged, their minds are caught up in doing what is right and what is good, what is wholesome, what is positive, there's really no space for anything else. But we have to find a way to meaningfully engage our young people, and we must be able to point out to them when they are not doing what is right. We can't be afraid. In a lot of ways now in Jamaica, there are a lot of us as parents, we start fearing our children. It is the strangest thing I've ever seen. You're afraid to correct your child. You're afraid to talk to your child. You're afraid to say to them, "I'm going to take that away from you," because you're afraid to put them on timeout because you're afraid of them being angry and upset and bending off them face, we call it here. So when they realize that you are fearful of them, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to do what they need to do, right? Because they say, "Oh, mommy and daddy is afraid of me." No, I am of the view that if you start having children who is afraid of you, you need to give up parenting.
And many people live in a dream world, and they can't really snap back into reality and realize that everything can depend on them if they choose to channel maybe not their aggressivity but their energy,
The creative energy, positive creative energy. And that is so true, because I've gotten to realize as well that when you don't meaningfully, for example, your child get up this morning, and not because your house may seem as if it is well put together and clean and tidy, you must be able to say to them, "Look around, see if there's anything to be done." You can't just have your children or your child just sit down having nothing to do, just sitting down, and this is what creates this dream world, because they sit down and the mind has nothing to do but waste. So they either sit until they fall asleep, or they sleep and dream, or they're awake and dreaming. So they dream up all sorts of nonsense, when if you had allowed them to go outside, walk, look, do you have some leaves to be picked up? What do you need to do? Do you need to give them something to go and visit the neighbor and say, "Bring this over to Miss Brown," or "Bring this over to Mr. So-and-so," and give it to them, or send them to do some little errands? They would have been much more meaningfully engaged. Everybody wants to be occupied and be meaningfully engaged, and sometimes they becomes engaged thinking it is meaningful when it is destructive.
But sometimes reality seems to be a little too harsh, and that people wanna stay away from that. It almost seems like God is trying to test us, and to see if we actually persevere and push through. But people don't really want to snap back into reality because it's so harsh.
True,
You know?
but why shouldn't God test us at times though? We all need to be tested, because you see, if you look at, I'm sure you are not here now because of chance. You're not here now because you just went to school and you was just such an handsome fellow and you went through school and you got some certificates. You were given test after test after test to see where you're at in life. You see, if only we would understand that tests are good things. We need tests to be able to be better people. We have to get out of being weak. We have become weak over time and allow ourselves to become vulnerable because we believe that, boy, test is a thing that is going to rip us apart. We all need to be tested. We all need, if we don't get tested, we don't develop character. If we don't get tested, we do not get certified.
But the thing is that I find tests to be unfair because it seems like everyone is being tested the same way, especially in school. I used to have the same test as everyone else, but really I wanted to have a unique test for me that fulfills my purpose. But it's so hard to communicate your own purpose to people.
That's true. And that again, no, it comes also from a culture, because again, if we are able to harness the special gifts and talents of each individual, as I said earlier, we are all born with different gifts, traits, talents, personalities and everything. Therefore, we should not be tested on the same plane or the same level, because the child who is very good at drumming, for example, why would you want to test him to blow the trumpet? You test him on his drumming, you train him, you harness his skills with drumming. If it is that his trumpet he is doing, you test him on that, you harness his skill thereabout. So, because over time, you see, we have changed, Jamaica has changed its culture because of being, because it is called a global world. We have lost a lot of our uniqueness because we want to be like everyone else. Because the truth be told is, in olden days, you used to have people who would be able to define and pick out children with special talents, and they'll be harnessed in that way. We are now so culturalized to believe that, okay, all of us need to have a degree. Why do all of us need to have a Bachelor of Science degree in management or whatever? Do we all going to be managing something? No. What about if we were taking, some of us who like culture and art and certain skills would be taken out of the class, and that skill would be harnessed in a different way? Why do we all need this degree? But because, again, we have now called ourselves a global village, it has caused some of us to lose our uniqueness as a people. To be honest, in tying into that, I have seen some of the most successful consistent people that is in Jamaica. They don't have any degree. They have not gone through the whole formal educational system, and successful meaning is not about just education. It is about what they are contributing to their society, what they're contributing to the community, how their family is succeeding, how they are succeeding, their belief in God, how they live, the peace of mind that they carry, their peace of mind in a community, how they keep the peace in the community, the amount of people that they help. You'd be so surprised. And if you check them out, it appears as if, oh, they're very bright in terms of educational wise and they have a lot of degrees. No, they have nothing. Some of them, they did not pass high school. They didn't. But they have made it because they were trained and taught in a different way, and it's a different process. They use their mind and utilize their mind in a completely different way than what we are programmed to do. We have been very programmed over time. We have to be deprogrammed.
And if there were more people like Michael Aiken, even though he's completely unique, if there were more people like him in Portland, then the community would become prosperous. And
tremendously prosperous.
There would be fortune, and it almost seems like it would be too good to be true. That it would be like the ideal world.
Mini heaven.
But
mini heaven.
Do you think Jamaica can end up like that?
I think so. It may be wishful thinking, but I think so. We have to start with one person at a time, one school at a time, one district at a time, one community at a time, one parish at a time. And we have to be the example. We have to be the light. We have to carry that light well. Even when our hands are tired, metaphorically speaking, we can't put down our hands. We can't throw water on that light. We have to be that light. The truth be told is that, again, because we have become so globalized as well, and because we tend to look out instead of looking inward, a lot of the youngsters right now that have gotten frustrated and have seem to be giving up is because they believe that, boy, that person has a degree, that person has a certificate, I have nothing, so I am not able to fit into society. The truth is, we should not really want to have our children fitting into society, but standing out and bringing society to its wholesomeness and its fulsomeness. If we just want our children to just walk by and fit in, it is the same old, same old. So our children now, because they want to be recognized and to be fit in, they fit in their own way that they conjure up in their mind. While if we should say, look here, son, it really doesn't have to do with you getting a degree. Getting a degree is good. Getting certified in certain areas is good. However, you can still make it because of these skills and talents and gifts that you have.
But it seems like everything can fall apart as soon as one person envies the fact that you've succeeded, instead of them finding a solution or joining ties with you. Because many times, for example, personally, I wish that friends would have helped me, but instead they just remain solitary, and I kind of I want to do something about that. Like
mental weakness that has caused that, and is causing mental weakness. You see, we talk about yoga, we talk about meditation. I understand meditation to be you mutter to yourself, you think to yourself, you think through certain things. We talk about yoga where we get still and we get into self and we get into the mind, our own mind, and introspect ourselves and all of that. And we must understand that until we are able to understand why we think the way we think, harness our thoughts in the right way, we are always going to be in, we are now celebrating our emancipation. We are talking about emancipate yourself from slavery. However, the truth be told, Bob Marley says it very clearly. We must be able, in a song that he said, we have to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. Because I see what we have been taught, and this mental slavery does not have to do with black people, it's right across the hemisphere, where if your thoughts are not harnessed in the right way and were not trained, just like how you will have a yoga instructor, how do you still yourself? How do you get in tune with yourself? How do you understand your thought processes? How do you understand that, okay, it is okay to think bad thoughts sometimes. The difference is when you carry it out. Because what? Your mind is a very private space. All sort of things flow through our minds each day. If we are to be honest and tell people some of the things, some of us that say we are upstanding citizens and we are pastors and we are lawyers and doctors, if we should tell people the thoughts that flies through our minds each day, they would be blown away. The difference is you do not carry out some of these thoughts. You have to understand they are just energies moving around, and you can channel those energies. The reason why they are there, is to say, look, these are real things that can happen if you are not able to control you. But if you are able to control how your mind thinks and don't allow an external force to control your mind, then now you're able to understand it's okay to think certain ways, but the difference is when you carry it out. You must allow the good to supersede.
Okay, and sometimes reality can be very scary in the sense that like a person can struggle their whole life to amount to something, like suffer and go through intense emotional scarrings, and then out of the blue, one person can come out of nowhere and end their life, just like that.
Yeah.
How can that be even rational? How can that be even something that God would allow? Like, it's so scary to me how failure can just happen like this.
It depends on what we call failure and what we call success, because again, it's all about the mind. And that is why when our children are smaller and they are younger and they are much more vulnerable, those are the times we should be teaching our young people how to our children or toddlers, each and every one of them, how to understand the thoughts that goes through your mind. Because the truth be told is none of life is going to be easy as long as you're alive. It is the decisions you make that makes a difference. Because, as I said, depends on what you call failure, depends on what you call success. Success for some persons is having a night's dinner. Success for a person is having somebody giving them a pair of worn out shoes. That's success for them. Failure for some persons, they will have 10 homes and 6 cars and they have millions of dollars in the bank. And failure for them is that they have a girlfriend that left them. So it's all about how do you define success and failure. I grew up in a very humble household, very poor household. But I said to my daughter the other day, we did not know we were poor. How I knew we were poor is since my eyes have been opened now to a different way or culture of life to see and compare what others had then and what people even have now. And that is how I realized, so in essence then we were poor. But the truth be told, we were not poor because we didn't know we were poor.
Okay, can you elaborate a little more on how Jamaicans view themselves? How they're so unique compared to other countries?
I think we were the most unique set of persons in maybe even 20 years ago, whereby my grandmother, for example, she would go down to her farm and she would get, or 25 years ago, she would get some cocoa from what she planted, some bananas and stuff. And she would be able to share that with the neighbor and share that to some other people up the road. The neighbor, them would get some stuff as well and share. So we were able to reach out to each other and feel good about each other, sharing what we have, and we were all happy. Over time, because of overexposure, I figure losing our sense of real pride of being prideful of who we are and wanting to be somebody else. We believe that, okay, the cocoa and the dasheen and the dumplings and the butter that we used to eat and the little salted fish and rundown that we use coconut juice to make, that now is not sufficient. We now want to have what some other people have, because we now have now seen that life. We want to have the chicken every day. We want to have the oxtail every day. And we believe that, okay, those persons are more privileged. So we start to believe that, okay, we are not good enough. We have been losing our uniqueness as a people, our culture, even the dishes that we used to cook. We cook them no more. A lot of times you don't hear people tell them, boy, I have nothing to eat. And when they check it out, them have coconut, them have banana, them have flour, them have yam, them have all those things. But how do you not have anything to eat? Don't you know about using the coconut, which is much more nutritious than some of the meat we're eating now? That if you use coconut juice and make rundown, it is the most delicious thing. Plus the values of coconut, don't you know that? Don't you know that the values you get from eating banana and those things? So our uniqueness is being eroded because of being too what do you call, foreignized. We prefer to lose our uniqueness to a foreign culture, yet you have persons in foreign countries want to be like us, loves their culture, falling in love with our culture and want to be like us. So we have to take back our uniqueness. Now, when I look at a woman who we grew together as children and we were like similar complexion, and I now see women doing things to their bodies because they want to get a lighter skin. Who taught you that? When we were children, we did not know that. We thought that being the color we are, we were beautiful and we stood out and all that. No, everybody now almost wants to get into this thing of a lighter skin, of a lighter nature. Why should that be so? Don't you know that our uniqueness stood out across the length and breadth of the world from ever since? And that is why we have a Marcus Garvey, and that is why we have a Bob Marley, and that is why we have a Paul Bogle and all these other persons. It is their uniqueness, and that is why we have many of the Maroons. If they had chosen then to be different and to choose another path, we would not be here now. They stood up for what they needed to stood up for, which is the strong culture, which is to stand for what is right and true, and not being brainwashed by any other but ourselves, being understanding of our own mental space.
So how can Michael find even more power to remind people not to take things for granted? How does Michael build so much character? Or like, how can he figure out the character in the child and bring that out?
First thing, he has to stay strong, not to lose who he is. That's the first thing. Because if he loses who he is, that's it.
It's true.
Yeah, he has to be very strong, not to lose who he is. He is Michael Aiken, no name, no change. No, even when everywhere else is collapsing around him and everyone else seems like they're collapsing, he has to stand. That's one. Two, he has to look at all the youths that are around him from time to time and start to pick out those that carries very strong leadership skills. We are all leaders in our own way, but some of us carry a great leadership influence of others than some of us do. So when you start to look at who is a stronger character in the group that has a strong leadership skills, that will stand and talk up and will stand out and will do certain things, you have to now harness that one. Let that one be now like the catalyst for the rest. Let that one be the one who, because children have a way of just how they form gangs. You always have is a stronger mind that form these gangs, a stronger mind that was not harnessed in a positive way. So if you're able to harness this kind of a mind, let him be or she be the one that is now saying the things that needs to be said, that doing the correction. Did you say good morning to Mr. Brown? Did you say thank you to Miss Gutsmore? Did you say excuse me? Right? Come, let the 10 of us, the 6 of us go and let us give some assistance to that old lady that is crossing the road. Or let's assist somebody with their bag today. Or say, the man them out there so clean up the sidewalk. Make we go out there and give a hand. If you are able to harness from a very tender age, because you see, old time people in Jamaica say you can't break the tree when it's old. It has to be your Bennett when it is young. So those minds, you have to target the leadership minds from early so that they can bring along their friends and their pals. Because remember, they're able to understand each other much more than how you would, because you have passed through their era. You are not in their age group or their category. So their friends tend to relate to them much more, and they speak the same language.
And so I would guess that the way that their friends would relate to them is based on what they want, and that their friends like sense that in them.
Yes.
But there's also a difference between what people want and what people need.
Yes.
Right. And
again, we first have to know what wants is and what a need is. And we have to deal with children along that line. But again, we have to first understand what we are about. Because if we do not understand what we're about, then we can't really help these children. Because a lot of us right now as adults, we really don't know what we want from what we need. We just maybe look in a magazine, for example, we already have our chairs and our whatever. We have all that we need, all our amenities to carry us through, maybe for the next 10 years, just word speaking. And because you take up a magazine that is a furniture store magazine that is advertising these fancy tables, right away we say, oh Lord, me need this. You really don't need to have that now, or you don't want that right now, because you have to now look and say, oh, but I have a table already. So do I really want this table, or do I need it? Is it a need that I need to fulfill? Is it something that I really need, or is it something that I want? And make the differentiation. And equally we teach our children that. Because some of our children believe that, okay, if we don't have a big plate of food this evening with half a pound of meat on it and a big cup of rice and all that, our bellies can't be full. And as I said to my children, a belly full is a belly full. You may eat a banana and some coconut juice and drink some water and your belly full. Somebody else eat them oxtail and them steak and them whatever and them vegetables and their belly full. But a belly full is a belly full, and the only way you're going to know the difference is when you go tell people, say, you know, say, it's only one banana I did eat this evening and some coconut juice and water. Right away them start to tell her that, you know, that I had steak and I had vegetables and I had this and I had that and all that. Remember, the vegetables are good. We don't say anything wrong with steak, but remember, you could not have afforded it at the time, or your parents could not have afforded it. So what you had, then the coconut juice has a nutritional values just the same. So we have to know what is a need different from what is it we want, because a lot of the things we really want, we really don't want them. And a lot of the things we want, we really don't need them either. And vice versa.
So how do you replace a need which is more fundamental to what a person wants?
It is not you replacing it. It is them understanding self. Because you see, that's the thing that we have been teaching our children, it is wrong, is to compare and to look outside. You have to look within yourself and wonder and rational, do I really want this? And okay, the mind will say, yes, I want it. You have to go back and ask yourself the question, why do you want it? What benefit is it to you if you get it? Would you be able to take care of it? Right? Would you understand the responsibilities that comes with having something such as this? Right? So who say basically, we don't need to look outside. We need to stop doing that too. We need to stop comparing ourselves, because you can't compare stones with apples. A stone knows its place. The only thing on earth I think don't know its place is mankind.
But what about all those people who are tempted to do bad things, like steal, rape, and take drugs, for example? How come they want that so bad that they can't get that out of their head, even though it's not what they need? It's actually very bad for them.
Because it's we are always in two minds, and it is what trumps, it is what is most dominant. The day we are able to calm ourselves and understand our choices, we have choices, you know, and with each choice we make, there are rewards, there are consequences. We have to be able to tell ourselves and talk to ourselves. We talk to people too much. We have to talk to self. We have to introspect self. We have to look into self. We have to understand self more. Right? Because if we start doing that, we realize half of the things right now that a lot of us have around the place, we really don't need them, you know.
Right.
If you look into your closet now, you realize you have some clothes in there you have not worn for a year. So what it means, you could have given it away. You really don't need it, but we want it because we want to prove to the world that we have a whole lot of shoes and we have a whole lot of clothes and we have this and we have that. We really don't. The truth also be told is that, you see, We can't get in God's mind. And as I said, we have police officers to fight crime and to keep peace. We have soldiers to go out and fight war. You know, the truth be told is, this may sound harsh, but we need everybody and we need everything. Because if we didn't have the police officers we have, their children, what would they do? Right? If we did not have the soldiers we have to be getting paid, what would their children do? Everybody. We need everybody. We really need everybody. These groups that are rising up now, it is also to say to us, look here, somehow we're just too comfortable. Some of us have gotten too comfortable over time. So we have gotten so relaxed and so comfortable in our little neck of the woods, and we think, oh, all is well and good. Really and truly, the earth has been balanced with good and evil from the beginning of time. That's why we have two hands, that's why we have two ears, that's why we have two eyes, left and right. It is what it is. It is how we view all of this that is what is going to make the difference. And we have to harness our children in a much more positive way to say, you have choices, you have to make a decision, the choices you make. But at the end of the day, as I say, after you have tried everything you know how and you have given off your best, understand it comes right back to, a lot of this are from creation.
Yes.
And some of this is just to give us a wake-up call.
And many people are not aware of their bodies and their actions and what they do with them. So how do you get people to become aware? Because they don't even realize that they need to become aware of their actions. All
that there was is, and all that is was. And we can start from one plane and we go everywhere, but it comes back to one place. All of life comes back to one universal principle. For us as a people to balance off, to understand that, look, we need everything in this life that is to teach us the lessons we need to learn. We need to understand that the persons that are out there doing what they are doing in an evil manner, they are there to teach us that, look, you have a choice. You can choose that way, or you look at another choice and you choose another way and balance it. We are not here to condemn anybody either, because you see, the very good child you have today can become such a peculiar child tomorrow. That pains your heart and you wonder, how did they reach to this point? So we need everything at a point to balance us and to take us away from some things and to bring us in reality to some as well. And the truth be told is, we dare not understand the mind of God. Because you see, when you look at some countries that get devastated and people get hurt and all of that, we try to rationalize it. We will never be able to rationalize it. Some of these things we just have to understand. What are the lessons do we need to learn from this? And comfort ourselves to know that, look here, I really don't understand. And if you're honest enough to tell yourself, I don't understand, that is enough to say, that's powerful enough. To understand that you don't understand is powerful.
But the fact that we want to rationalize things so bad, it just shows how concerned everyone is about the world and about what God has given us. Because it seems like all the problems are not going away. We wish they would go away, but they won't. And the fact that we're thinking that we wish they would go away, it's very hard to deal with that.
But the bottom line is, again, if we are strong enough to look and say, one, you can't control God. God is God. Two, you will never understand why God does the things he does. Hence, it's best to just find a calm space in your head. Understanding that you don't understand is powerful. Yes. Because the more you try to understand the things you don't understand, is the more the misunderstanding comes in, and is the more frustration comes about. And it's the more you want to solve and to rectify and to mend and to do all these things. You can't be a God. You can't be God.
So that is misplacement. When people try to understand things too much, they're being misplaced.
I just believe, and this is just my humble opinion, that we don't need to understand everything.
Right.
We were not made equally to understand everything, because if we were made to understand everything, why would we bother to have a phone? Why would we bother to watch the television? Why would we have a fan? We don't really fully understand how does someone came up with the idea to make a fan and for the fan to work the way it works. We just don't understand. Why do we need to understand everything? We need to know the things we need to know for our space, our mental space, our life, our well-being. It is wanting to know all the other things that is creating the problem. We don't need to know everything. We really don't need to know, because if we start to rationalize and try to find out why did God save Noah and his family but him make everybody else drown, we're gone in depression. Why would a God that says he's so loving and merciful and gracious and kind and all these commandments and everything, why would a God says David was a man of his own heart, the same David that it was said in the Bible that committed a number of sins? And then we start to ask why and why and why, understanding that you don't understand some things and you will never be able to get in the mind of God himself. What we have to do is just follow the basic instructions. Basic instructions. I am of the view that if we allow ourselves to go in that sphere where we just simplify life, we have become too complicated a people. That's just my belief. We have become too complicated, and it is driving us in a lot of stress and depression as well. Because when you start to realize, oh Lord, the more I think I know, I don't know. The more I think I understand, I don't understand. The more I try to fix the future, you can't fix the future, right? It is what it is. That's the reason why people now are suffering seriously in terms of depression. If you ask people what make you depressed, outside of saying it's a chemical imbalance, which yes we know, but if you ask some people what is making you feel depressed today, they will tell you about they're fretting about everything else to come. You can't fret about what is to come because none of us know what the next hour has ahead of us.
Okay, so to recapitulate a little bit of everything, what would you say is the simplest need that your community faces right now?
The simplest, we have need and we have need and we have need. We have emotional needs, we have physical needs, we have spiritual needs. Let me break it. The simplest physical need we have now is food. Food. The simplest emotional need we have right now, which is the biggest thing, is love and compassion. They tie together. Tying with forgiveness. Because if we really love and have compassion and respect, it's easy to forgive. The spiritual need that we have right now is simply understanding that whether you want to call the force God or Allah or whatever you want to call it, there is a universal force bigger than all of us that blows the wind, that makes us, that made the animals, everything. It's just the understanding, that spiritual understanding, that there is a supreme force, there's a supreme being. It doesn't matter what name you give it, but there's a supreme being that created this earth that none of us created. We are just here, we are just renting space here. And our duty in our renting of space here is to be of good service to others. Because that is the rent we pay. Right? Whether we want to pay, call it rent or lease, that is what we are paying to be on earth. In its simplest form.
And what is the greatest need that that Jamaica has?
The greatest need that Jamaica has spiritually, again, is understanding our self as a people, our leaders, the people who we choose to lead us from a physical plane, who we put as our government structure over us. Our greatest need is to have leaders that understands their role as leaders, understanding that our life and well-being is almost paramount in their hands in terms of the decisions they make. The biggest need we have is to have our leaders understanding that they are given a God-given responsibility. A God-given responsibility to steer our people in the right way, in the right path. Not saying one thing very fancifully on paper, but displaying another when you're out in public. It can't be that we are telling our young people we must not fight and we must not fuss and we must not draw weapons, yet still you're yelling and shouting and screaming at each other when you are out there as leaders, and you're cussing out each other and flagging off each other and doing these crazy stuff. So the greatest needs we have as a country is for our leaders to understand that they have been given a God-given responsibility to guide our people in the right way. Because the truth be told is that if persons are leading us, they should understand God and godly principles, because the Bible itself tell you about the government of a land and the leadership of a land. And that is why it is said that if your leaders do not have insight of what is a nation without a solid leader, we must perish. If we don't understand where we're going, if we don't understand godly principles, we must perish. We must understand as leaders that we have a God-given responsibility to lead and lead the right way.
Yes. Man, I could keep going on and on with these questions. There's so much to talk about with all of this in Jamaica. But let me ask you a final personal question. What is the one thing that you desire the most as an individual?
To my greatest desire is to have all that I can to share with everyone I can.
To be able to share?
Share with everyone I can. The old, the young, the middle age. I would just love to be able to always have to share and meet the needs of persons. Just last week I had 3 persons that came to my gate, and a baby let me 4. In fact, no, it was 5. A mother and her son, 2 young ladies, and one of them had a baby. And what were their needs? They didn't have any food to eat from morning. One of them, 2 of them did not eat from the Sunday, and they came to me the Monday. And I was able to come in and find a little small change and bring to them to say buy this, and I was able to go to the shop and buy some stuff and pack a bag, give another. So I would love to be able to, through God's grace and mercy, to have in abundance, to just share, to help people who have genuine needs. It's something I love to do.
Yes. Okay. Well, thanks very much for that answer. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Yes. In this life, we are all given a particular amount of years to live.
Yeah.
It does not matter what we do, it does not matter how we try to fix it. We all have been given a particular amount of years of life to live. My earnest and fervent prayer is that people will live these years well. You don't know how many years they are. It could be 60, it could be 70, it could be 80. But my greatest hope is for people to live their best to self. Wear themselves well. WEARE. Wear themselves well. Act the right way. Ask questions when you need to. Be able to listen to each other. Be compassionate, understanding equally, be graceful, be humble, understanding as well that you have to have some level of aggression at times, because everything has its place. Now, it is asked that can a good God cause persons to get destroyed and get destruction? I would say the good God, He teaches us the things we need to learn. And if only we would understand that nothing at all, good or bad, lasts forever. If only we would understand. So if anyone is down in, they feel like they're in a valley or a pit today, understand you will not be there forever.
Yeah.
The tenacity of spirit to hold on, understanding that within the next minute, your life can change from the pit up to the palace. Understanding equally that what you have, they said true wealth comes from God, true leadership comes from God. Understanding as well that it doesn't matter where you are in the pinnacle of life and of right now. You may think you have all that you need to have. If you don't understand the principle that you can lose all you have within the split of a second, then I am hoping that you understand that now. Understanding that there's a force bigger than all of us. And you can be at the bottom of the ladder in this minute and at the top the next. And you can be at the top the next minute and be at the bottom the next. So it means we need each other.
Yes, very well put. Man, well, I want to keep going and talk more and more, but I think we have to put this to an end eventually. Otherwise, I'm going to be here forever.
That's right.
But I'd love to come back, though, and talk more.
And we can arrange that.
Okay.
And I thank you for really coming. Thank you for us having this discussion. I'm really hoping that if it's even one person
Yes.
would see this and would be able to grasp something, to learn something. We have said a lot, but that doesn't mean all that I have said has to do with everyone or one person needs to take everything. Sometimes all they need to take is just one sentence,
Yes.
one word,
That's
and
true.
build on it.
Right.
And build on it, understanding that we're all unique people and I have my own unique way of seeing things. But to a circle as its beginning and it ends right where it begins, and that's why it's a circle.
Oh, okay. Yes. So it all works in mysterious ways, but it makes
Yes.
sense in the end.
Yes, it
The
does.
way we rationalize.
Yes, we have to leave some things and allow it to pencil out itself.
Yes, the truth has been said today. Very nice.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very much for this interview.
I bless you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure is mine and yours. Wow.